तो 5:03 हो चुके हैं। चलिए, सभी को जय जिनेन्द्र, वंदे श्री ऋषभ वीरम। I am CA Mahavir Chanodia, your host for the evening and also the General Secretary of JCAF Pune chapter. I welcome you all. Let's begin the evening filled with knowledge and learning with divine chanting of Navkar Mahamantra. Om Namo Arhantanam, Om Namo Siddhanam, Om Namo Ayaryanam, Om Namo Ujjayanam, Namo Loe Savasahunam, Eso Panchanokkaro, Savapao Panasano, Manglanam Cha Savesim, Padmam Havai Mangalam. I acknowledge the presence of JCF President Sri Shantilaji Kochar sir and other office bearers from other chapters as well. Thank you all. नवकार महामंत्र के उच्चारण मात्र से अद्भुत ऊर्जा का संचार हो जाता है, ऐसा मेरा अनुभव। हो सकता है कि इस डिवाइन शक्ति का आपने भी अनुभव किया हो, तो सभी भाग्यशाली नई ऊर्जा के साथ तैयार हो जाइए एक छोटी सी ज्ञान यात्रा के लिए। Embrace the change with JCAF. Let us all take this opportunity of virtual lecture series to understand and decode the amendments brought in by Finance Act 2022 and other laws from eminent speakers and from the comfort of your home or office. Entry fee is free, but registration is compulsory. Sorry, there is some malfunction in the script. Welcome you back to session 2. Embrace the changes with JCF series. Topic for the day is recent changes and controversies under GST law. To kickstart the session with the opening welcome address, please put your hands together and welcome still so young, dynamic and super leader, JCF Pune President and my dear boss at JCF Pune, CA Santosh Doshi.
Thank you, Mahavir, for your kind words. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah. Welcome to all to this particular session, which is being arranged by Jain Chartered Accountants Federation Apex. As it is said that the change is the only thing which is constant. So we are going to check out what are the changes which are being effected in various laws as well as GST. And the caption of this total season has been given properly, that embrace the change with JCAF. This is season 2, which is going on. And today we do have second session in this regard. And in this session, we welcome all of you to understand recent changes and controversies under GST law. Obviously, as the name suggests, controversies. This is the key area. Obviously, it is a challenging one as well as remunerative also for us. So from that point of view, we do have a very learned speaker with us, CA Hiral Shah, who is enthusiastic as well as who is master in on this particular subject. He has also written some of the different books on professional subjects, say like trusts and other books. Our chairman of today's session is CA Subodhbhai Shah, who hails from Pune. He is having experience of more than 30 years in the field, and he himself is an authority on the subject. And obviously, our host is my friend CA Mahavir Chanodia. We can just hear some crispy comments and crispy hosting from him. So have a good journey in this regard. I once again welcome to all of you on behalf of our JCF. Thank you. Enjoy the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Santosh sir, for putting an additional burden on me of some expectation. तो मित्रों, संतोष के साथ आज की ज्ञान संध्या का शुभारंभ हुआ है, तो यकीनन हमें सुबोध की प्राप्ति होगी और हम सभी प्रबुद्ध हो जाएंगे, ऐसी मेरी आशा। It's time to introduce today's session chairman, a well-known face and voice of Pune, the pillar of strength, mentor of JCF Pune, जिनका नाम ही उनके व्यक्तित्व की पहचान है। सुबोध यानी सरल, बोधगम्य व्यक्ति, कॉम्प्रिहेंसिबल, इंटेलिजिबल, एप्रिहेंसिबल। सु यानी सही, सम्यक, और बोध यानी ज्ञान। तो सम्यक ज्ञानी सुबोध शाह। टू बिगिन हिज इंट्रोडक्शन, लेट मी टेल यू, ही मेड मी सीए। ये मेरे गुरु है। बिकॉज ऑफ हिम आई एम सीए, एंड नॉट जस्ट मी, देर आर thousands of CAs who got to get pass in costing and taxation thanks to him. For last 29 years, this Subodh is making thousands Subodhi. Needless to say, he is a practicing chartered accountant and former president of Pune branch of ICAI. और यह प्रूव करने के लिए कि उनका नाम कितना समर्पक है, सुबोध सर स्टूड फिफ्थ इन द HSC बोर्ड एग्जाम, पास बीकॉम विद डिस्टिंक्शन, पास CA इंटर विद ऑल इंडिया मेरिट थर्ड रैंक, पास CA with all India merit 17th rank, also stood first in direct tax, passed with 90% mark in ISA, and so on. Due to time constraint, I am posting his detailed introduction in chat box. अपने माँ बाप ने दिए नाम को सही साबित करने की ये कैसी तड़प है सर। ताली तो बजाओ भाग्यशाली आत्माओं। ऐसे प्रबुद्ध गुरु के चरणों में वंदन और निवेदन है कि आप हमें अपने संबोधन से सुबोध का दान दें।
थैंक यू फॉर दिस इंट्रोडक्शन। ये जो अपनी फर्स्ट पार्ट जो बोला ना, मुझे उसका क्लिप भेज दो, वाइफ को सुना तब उसको भी अच्छा लगेगा।
यस सर।
यस, बोलो। तो should I take over?
Yes sir, please.
Okay, so today in today's session we are having Hiral Shah as the speaker, and the topic chosen is something which is never going to end. कितनी भी बात करें, कंट्रोवर्सी को कोई अंत ही नहीं है। And when we are talking about GST, I think as a practicing chartered accountant, all of us when GST started, we said चलो teething problems है, एक साल 1.5 साल में सब सुधर जाएगा, system will settle down. And now we have 5 years of GST which are almost completed, and GSTR 2-3 never came into the picture. Finally, what was a stopgap arrangement, 3B has now become full and final, and 2 and 3 have been scrapped by this Finance Act 2022. So, you know, this is a extremely sad situation. What was supposed to be a very, very good and efficient system of cross-matching, that cross-matching system has gone for a toss, and using a shortcut, they have now started collecting the tax using the 3B, which is causing a lot of burdens for the taxpayers. Because the taxpayers here today, for any fault of my supplier who's not filing the return on time, I am facing the penal consequences of, you know, blocking up my money today, and ITC hai lekin main use nahi kar pa raha. It's a very, very major issue. Like this, there are many changes which are there in this Finance Act, and I'm sure Hiral Bhai will take us through this entire session, and I hope that we have a very nice learning session with him. So all the best, Hiral Bhai, over to you.
Thank you, sir. Dhanyavad, Gurudev. After the Sambodhan of Sri Subodh Shah sir, it's time to move to our next speaker and the speaker of the evening. Subodh ज्ञान जैसा कोई अमृत नहीं, वैसे ही हीरे जैसा कोई रत्न नहीं, जो JCA परिवार में सबसे शोभियामान है, जो हीरे जैसा चमकदार है, ऐसे हमारे CA हिरल भाई शाह. Whatever little interaction I had in past with CA Hiral Shah, I find a destructive thinker in him. I believe he has so much of knowledge. He must be having so many knowledge books embedded in him, and so far very few have come out in public domain. He authored publication on impact of GST law on cooperative housing society published by GST Practitioners Association of Maharashtra, and co-authored a publication FAQ on charitable trust published by JCAF. I repeat, JCAF. Thank you. He has also co-authored book on taxation laws for LLB students. Being a qualified chartered accountant, LLB, a learned faculty, and a speaker. He is a member of Career Counseling, a standing committee of WIRC of ICI, Honorable Secretary of Jain Chartered Accountants Federation, Mumbai, member of Management Committee of the Goods and Services Tax Practitioners Association of Maharashtra, Chief Mentor at Tax Foundation Academy, TFA, member of MPR Committee of Chamber of Tax Consultants, CTC, a practicing CA, office bearer at many prominent professional bodies, a faculty, a writer, a speaker, a trainer, a motivator. इतने कम उम्र में ये बंदा क्या क्या कर लेता है. I am going to put his long and exhaustive profile in the chat box. But before that, let's put our hands together and welcome today's splendid diamond speaker, CA Hiral Shah. Hiral bhai.
Thank you, Mahavirji, for your kind words. Thank you, the chairman of the session, Subodh Bhai Shah, Santosh Doshi ji, Shantilal ji, Kocher, Tarachand Bafna ji, for giving me an opportunity to present whatever thoughts I have in my mind in front of the audience. I hope I'm able to give justice to the task given to me. But हाँ, जो करना है स्माइल के साथ करना है. महावीर जी ने इतना स्प्लेंडेड सबको enthusiastic अप्रोच दिया है आगे बढ़ने के लिए, तो I hope I stick to it. Now, coming to the topic proper, as Chairman Sir said, कि changes and controversies in GST laws are never going to end. We haven't seen till date that something coming to an end. Forget about things coming to an end. It is more increasing day by day. If each day we see some AAR which is in contradiction to some other AAR which is there, or which is contradicting something else, some other judgment, some new notification circular, and things go on and on. But as of now, we have, as a few speakers say, that this presentation is valid till 29th of April 22, till the time I end the session. In fact, till the time I'm starting the session, don't know whether we would be having some change which is in the pipeline and which comes up. When we see further that we're talking about, there are changes, yes, controversies, yes, but an evolving law. We don't know how long and how stressful would be our journey with respect to the GST laws. But yes, the fact is that the controversies are there and we have to stay with it. Just this morning around in the afternoon, was speaking, we were with the commissioner, the state tax GST. He was like, sir, अभी सितंबर तक हम जो एमनेस्टी स्कीम लाए हैं उसके ऊपर काम करेंगे, और उसके बाद हमारे ऑफिसर्स सब वापस जीएसटी के काम पे लग जाएंगे. सारे ऑफिसर्स जीएसटी के काम पे लग जाएंगे. So I would say, at least from the state officers perspective, we have some breather up to September, not after that. Okay, so to start with subject proper, one, I have classified the changes into various sections. So firstly, if we would say the changes with respect to the ITC provisions, what are the changes that are, what are the major changes with respect to the ITC provisions? Basically, subsection 2 of section 16, in that a new clause BA has been added stating that input tax credit ITC for any supply can be availed only if it is not restricted via communication under section 38 or GSTR 2B to the registered person. So now all other aspects have been taken off, and we are restricting ourselves to the basic section 38. So the major controversy, if we would say, or a major change that we would say with respect to different provisions, especially the input tax credit portion, it is section 38, which would be the main governing portion therein. A registered taxpayer will not be able to utilize ITC on any invoice or debit note after 30th of November following the end of the financial year to which such invoice pertains to, or filing of return, whichever is annual return, whichever is earlier. So a registered tax. So what was before this change? So before the change of this 30th November coming in, it was that any ITC, claiming of ITC on any invoice or debit note pertaining to a particular financial year, if not taken on or before the due date of filing of return for the month of September or filing of annual return, whichever is earlier. So it was always the clause ki up to September. Now all of us know that the annual return, as of now, the due date stands at December. So it is always the 30th November clause would remain as it is. But the due date of filing of return for the month of September, so there were quite a few complications therein. If the due date is extended, what about this, what about that? So to do away with all the controversies, basically to do away with controversies, that which return do you consider, which due date would you consider? So nothing doing, no due date, nothing. It is directly 30th of November. The date has been brought in. Okay, so this one portion is done. The other portion with respect to section 38 or 2B, so that we will come down to later, wherein we will have a elaborate discussion about the section 38 and its implications. How are different aspects calculated therein? Changes to cancellation. Another very stringent provision which is brought in by the Finance Act is changes to cancellation of GST registration by officers. So it was the Finance Act amended section 29, which gave more and more power to the officer to cancel GST registration. So basically this stringent provision was brought in only for the purpose that tomorrow nobody wants more and more people getting registered but not filing their returns. So on paper it looks, oh, so see, so many registrations are there, but compliant registrations are how much? That becomes a very big question mark. Then because of certain registrations being active, there were other problems therein. A dealer purchases from another dealer. The other dealer is not tax compliant. He is not filing the returns on time in proper order. Still, the status is active. If the status is active, people used to say, "Arey, his status is active. Then, if he does not pay, how do I know? How does it affect us? Then people go back to the Mahalakshmi judgment of under the MVAT arena. It is you who have to collect. We are not bothered about it. Government has so much machinery. So to do away with all those things, a person, a registered dealer, if the dealer is compliant, is filing the returns on time, then better the registration be there. If the dealer is not compliant, he does not file the returns properly on time, the registration is bound to be cancelled. So for composition taxable person, paying tax under section 10, that is composition money or whatever you say, if the GSTR 4 is not filed for a financial year by 30th April of the following financial year, so that time frame is given. Okay, you have to file your return. Simple calculation, simple options are given to the composition dealer, the composition taxable person. So now the government says that so much simplicity is given to you, still you cannot file your returns. Better your registration be cancelled. A person other than the composition person has not filed a return for a financial year for a continuous period as prescribed from time to time. So earlier there were internal circulars, there were various SOPs which were circulated, which stated, okay, the return has to be filed this way, this has to be done this way. If the return is not filed, if the tax is not paid on time, then the registration would be cancelled. Now that has been amended and brought into the Act itself. The amended section 29 itself takes care of it, stating now prescribed. So the power is still there with the officers, with the machinery. But once the circular, once the notification comes, it gets proper power to be implemented. So yes, this clause is stringent, very stringent, but the fact remains, be tax compliant and then go ahead, because otherwise there is a problem to the entire mechanism of GST. So changes in furnishing details of outward supply. It states conditions for providing details of an outward supply in GSTR 1 and communication of such details to the recipients via GSTR 2B. So file 1. So basically the concept of section, when the section 38, the amended section 38 is coming into picture. Just one second. Once the amended section 38 is in effect, now once the dealer, the registered person files the GSTR 1, then the various options are there which are prescribed under section 38, and all the details are provided to the opposite party in GSTR 2B. So GSTR 2B will be a very comprehensive document after the amendment, wherein you have various items which are shown whether the opposite party is filing the returns on time, complying to all the notices, its opposite party has paid the taxes or not. You have an elaborate documentation for that, which would be applicable and which would be provided as GSTR 2B. When the GST was implemented, there was stated that there will be GSTR 1, 2, 3. Though, as Subodh said, it never saw the light of the day. The GSTR 2, GSTR 3, it didn't work out. And 3B became the way we started working. There was the proposed item which was there was a two-way communication process, wherein the outward supply details were provided in GSTR 1. Then the party has the GSTR2 with it. It verifies, it gives its comments. Okay, this has not been filed. These are the differences. And there was supposed to be two-way communication in terms of GSTR1 and GSTR2. However, that two-way communication process was never ever applicable till date. So the changes with the Finance Act, okay, cancel the entire two-way communication process in toto. Don't keep it as it is. Let it go. Let it be cancelled. Let it not stay altogether. Then an extended time limit up to 30th November of the following financial year was provided for rectifying of errors regarding outward supplies as reported in GSTR1. It used to happen, say till date also, there have been so many instances wherein we come across things day in day out, wherein the person says, sir, वो 2007-8 के अंदर था ना, तो हमने 1000 रुपए की जगह पे 100 रुपया लिख दिया था, एक जीरो कम हो गया, एक डेसिमल बढ़ गया, उस वजह से सामने वाले को क्रेडिट कितना मिला, जहां उसको क्रेडिट से लाख रुपए का मिलना चाहिए था, 10,000 का ही क्रेडिट दिख रहा है. Yes, but that had to be rectified at that point of time. As years passed, okay, people started understanding, the dealers started understanding how the mechanism works. Then of late, it so happened, okay, GSTR1 is open, we are able to modify the GSTR1 details, but there was a time gap. After a certain time, the GSTR1 was locked. Legally, it was always said as per the Act, excuse me, it was always mentioned in the Act that you can modify your GSTR1 for any kind of errors, the rectification of errors up to the period of filing of GSTR1, up to the date of filing of return for the month of September. However, so September, so due date came in the month of October, fell due in the month of October. So now they extended the date by another 1 month. So a window of 1 more month is available wherein any errors which has crept in filing GSTR1 can be modified. However, with this process of the GSTR2 return coming in, so people are verifying the details month on month basis. Generally, it does not have a problem which stays up to so many months. Say up to every month you are getting it, you are checking it. Say this error of 1 decimal less. So instead of 1 lakh rupees, it is 10,000 rupees which is mentioned. If that thing has come up over here, then it can be taken up as, okay, ये month में sir 10,000 claim कर लो, मैं उसको rectify करूंगा, बाद में 90,000 claim कर पाओगे. So that happens on a routine regular basis, month on month basis, such errors are rectified. However, still the time frame up to 30th of September following the financial year has been provided so that errors, if any, can be rectified. Now, another problem which used to happen was with respect to filing of returns on a sequential basis. There were instances wherein certain tax periods were skipped off. There was skipping of certain tax periods, because of which what happened was, same during financial year 21-22, GSTR1 is filed for the month of September, filed for the month of October. Inadvertently, the GSTR1 for the month of November has been missed out. So then for December it is filed, January, February, March. For other periods it is filed. Somehow the month of November was skipped off. the return for the month of November was skipped out of the mind, inadvertently or advertently, whatever it might be. But the next period return, that is the return for December, could be processed without the filing of the November return. This used to happen for GSTR1. It never used to happen for 3B. See, there are two ways in which we see GST law. One is what the Act says. Act has certain things in its mind. It is going as per the Act. However, the functionality is very much different when we look at the GST portal. So it is a portal made law. Portal made law always said that the GSTR 3B could never be filed without the earlier month's period, without skipping tax periods. 3B cannot be done. You skip is not possible because it will not accept the GSTR 3B, say for the month of December, if the month of November 3B is not filed. So sequential filing you always used to be there in case of 3B. However, there was no such clause, no such lock for GSTR 3.1, GSTR 1. So here the Act provides that skipping of tax periods would not be allowed and filing of GSTR 1 would not be possible if it is not sequential. Another thing, I would say extension, when we are talking about extension of time limit, there is an extension for time limit even for issuance of credit notes. So it provides that the extended time limit for issuance of credit notes up to 30th of November following the end of the financial year or the date of filing of annual return, whichever is earlier. So there is another extension of time limit for issuance of credit notes as well. Revamp of section 38 on ITC claims. See, as I said, section 38(1) is totally revamped by prescribing more terms and conditions and detailed inward supplies and ITC to recipient by way of an auto-generated statement. See, basically, when GST came into picture, it was a totally automated process. It was always said that the entire GST arena would be totally automated and there would be no human intervention therein. So, agreed on that count, section 38 is going ahead. The revamp of section 38 is going ahead, wherein detailed inward supplies has and the auto-generated statement is available to all of us. Yes, there would be huge amount of controversies in section 38 as well. Okay, here by absolutely implication, section 38 now says that two-way communication process is total by filing of returns is totally out. It has totally done away with that. However, the controversies would be very high for section 38 itself. I have just one document for section 38 especially. We will discuss that right up. Just 1 second, I will okay. I hope everybody is able to see my screen for new section 38.
Hiral bhai, if you could expand it a bit.
Sure, sir, sure.
You can close that check spelling box so that there is more space.
Yes, sir. So the new section of 38, it is substituting the existing 38. So it is basically a proposal to further tighten the entire input tax credit mechanism, so that it is basically all introduced to for the purpose of ITC frauds, the fake entries, the fake invoices, the entire scam which is going on. The scams we day in day out hear various scams that are coming in. अरे इतने करोड़ का स्कैम जीएसटी स्कैम हुआ, ये इतने करोड़ का स्कैम हुआ, पर अभी उस स्कैम को रोकें कैसे? उसके पीछे अपना मेजर तकलीफ हो जाता है कि वो जो होता है कि वो चोरों को पकड़ने के पीछे जो साहूकार है उसको भी तकलीफ होती है. Yes, it is bound to happen. We are bound to face many other problems with respect to this, but it will obviously it will help avoid matters of litigation in the court of law as well. So let's decode the new section 38 and find out its impact on the ITC claims of the business. How, see, what happens is with the revised section 38, either the claim, there are many claims which are held up with the GST department. The genuine claims, most of the genuine claim, many genuine claims are held up, and if you short claim, then your fund flow gets hit and impacted. Nevertheless, let's see. The existing section 38 of the CGST Act is titled Furnishing Details of Inward Supplies. It governed the entire furnishing of the details. Outward supply, there is no problem. You have to follow your GSTR1 method as it is. Okay, though just today we have seen that there are certain changes which have come up in the GST process, GSTR1 filing process, wherein it so happens that the mechanism has been a bit streamlined. So the changes which are there in GSTR1 and its filing process, that removal of submit button before filing, the present system of submit and file, so it is replaced by a single step filing process. Consolidated summary, table wise summary to provide an overview of the records added in GSTR1. Recipient wise summary, the total value of supply of tax involved in each recipient. So the new filing process has been replaced with the simple click on generate summary button for summary generation, click proceed to file summary button to view the final summary, and the final click on file statement button and the return is filed. So even the GSTR1 filing mechanism, it has been made a bit easier. As we discussed that the two-way communication methodology has been done away with, which was actually never followed, but now formally it has gone out. So the revised section 38 is titled Communication for Inward Input Tax Credit. It restricts the input tax credit claim in more ways than one and eliminates the two-way communication process. The intention of the new section is communicated by way of two subsections. The first subsection says that the details of outward supplies furnished by a taxpayer suppliers will be made available in an auto-generated statement. So yes, 2B was already available with us, but this will be a new revamped 2B which will be available to us, post filing of GSTR1 by the opposite party. The second subsection prescribes that the contents of 2B, in simple words, it tells the taxpayers the cases in which input tax credit may be availed or may not be availed. So it will be in different clauses, different stepwise, wherein it will tell you, okay, you can avail this is eligible, this is not eligible, and not just that much, it is eligible or not eligible. It will also give you the reasons therein why it would be eligible or not eligible. So yes, default in paying the taxes, all those things will be there. We will study it clause wise. The revised section 38 subsection 2 is a slightly complicated one for taxpayers to understand. So let's tackle this section clause by clause. Clause A of subsection 2 of section 38. So we will be speaking about subsection 2 of section 38 clause by clause. First, clause A. Clause A specifies the details of inward supplies and available ITC for the recipient buyer to claim in the GSTR 2B. So basically, that section would be your eligible ITC. Yes, you are eligible, so that would be available over there. Now, B is a more complicated problem, wherein a different table, different subclauses therein, the 6 parts that, would be available in the clause B. So it consists of the details of inward supplies furnished by the supplier in the GSTR 2B in respect of which ITC may not be available. So in other words, ineligible ITC. But it is not just the government is saying, see, it is a two-way process in the sense that the government also should justify that why this is ineligible ITC. Eligible to no problem, but why ineligible, they have to inform us. So the first part says that ITC may not be availed by suppliers furnished by on supplies furnished by a supplier within the prescribed period after the supplier's registration under the GST law. So understanding it with an example, if we say a person gets himself registered on 29th of April 22. Now, on 29th of April 22, it gets itself registered. However, it says that his liability also starts from 29th April 22 only. However, it issues an invoice, a tax invoice with proper tax and everything in it, which is dated, say, 27th of April, 2 days before getting registered. That would not be available to the supplier. So before the registration, if any tax invoice is issued, the opposite party would not be eligible to claim the ITC thereof. It would go into ineligible ITC with this reason stating that the supplier's registration is after the date of the invoice. So that becomes an ineligible ITC, first part. Now going to the second part. The second part says that ITC may not be availed on supplies furnished by a supplier who has not paid their taxes and where such default has continued for a prescribed period. So now the ITC cannot be availed. You have not paid the taxes. There is a default in payment of taxes. Yes, the ITC would not be available. So this has always been there, but it is here, it is for a prescribed period. Always it is the prescribed period which is mentioned, which we would come down. The third part says that ITC cannot be claimed on such supplies on which the supplier has tax liability higher. So the third part says that ITC cannot be claimed on such supplies on which the supplier has tax liability higher than the actual tax paid during the said period and by such limit prescribed. So let's go with an example for this. The supplier says in his GSTR 3B that his liability is coming to his supplies are for say 10 lakh rupees. Whereas in the GSTR 1, it says that the tax liability, the supplies are for 11 lakh rupees. And for a certain period, it is not rectified. See, we can say then there can be certain genuine issues which could have come up while being a discrepancy between the GSTR 1 and 3B in terms of outward supplies, the figure which is mentioned. However, if it is rectified in the subsequent period or for a particular period, it gets rectified and nullified, then there is absolutely not a problem. However, if such a discrepancy continues, then that tax cannot be claimed. That would not be available. The fourth part says that ITC may not be available on supplies furnished by a supplier where the supplier has claimed ITC more than what was allowed as per clause A. In this part 2, it says that the excess is determined by the limit prescribed. Okay. So what happens is ITC is for the opposite party. Now, as we have the amendment which has come up in the Income Tax Act, that if you are taking the loan from some person, so that the source has to be known, the source of the source also has to be known. Similar clause has is here as part 4. Yes, you can claim the ITC provided the person from whom you have bought the goods, he has claimed the proper ITC from the supplier from whom he had purchased. So it is not just your ITC which has to be seen. You have to see to it that the party from whom you are purchasing is also properly compliant, is also having a proper input tax credit or not. Is taking proper input tax credit only and only if that is done, then you would be in a position to claim the input tax credit. The fifth part says that ITC may not be available on supplies furnished by a supplier who has failed to pay their tax liability as per section 49(12), subject to the conditions and restrictions prescribed. So there was one part that, okay, its return has to be filed, its tax has to be paid. However, if there is any other tax liability also which comes up, then that also has to be seen, that the opposite party has paid any other liability which has come up on its head, whether that thing has been sorted by him or not. That is also a liability that comes up onto your head. The sixth part says that ITC may not be available on supplies furnished by a supplier where the supplier belongs to such other class of persons as may be prescribed. Again, going with an example for this, that you have purchased goods from a composition dealer. So the composition dealer is not supposed to issue you a tax invoice, though if he has mentioned it somewhere and you have claimed the ITC thereof, and such class of person, that is the composition dealer, is not supposed to pass on the tax credit to you. Therefore, that input tax credit may not be available to you. The thing that we said, the limit prescribed, the time prescribed, that thing has as of now not been specified. So the government has taken the power within itself. The GST Council has taken the power wherein it can change and specify these limits, these terms and conditions. So it has come up in the act, the section is modified accordingly, and the power is handed over to the GST Council, wherein it can frame the laws, the rules and the laws the way it wants. As I said, 4912 empowers the government to prescribe the maximum portion of output tax liability that may be paid by a specified taxpayer through an electronic credit ledger. So there were options with respect to coming up of calculation in terms of this much of output tax liability can be adjusted through electronic credit ledger only, this much through cash ledger only. So the section 4912 has empowered the government, wherein it can also change the proportion of output tax, the amount of output tax liability that has to be paid through other than electronic credit ledger. Now we'll discuss the example of ITC claim under before implementation of the revised section 38 and after implementation thereof. Just a minute. Okay. Hitesh, I will explain the section 38 in short again, because that is the the major heart of the changes for the GST amendments. So I'll come up to that. We will revisit it again. So example of ITC claim under before the revised section 38. So what used to be there? That okay, total ITC as per books, say this is an example. So ITC as per books 23 lakhs 40,800. Somehow 2 lakh of ITC, the opposite party has not filed their returns in toto, or whatever the case may be. So 2 lakhs goes away. So ITC in GSTR to be filed by the suppliers is say 21 lakh 40,800. Now eligible ITC in GSTR to be is say 19 lakh 58,500. There can be various clauses of ineligible ITC which is there, say buying of some motor car or your food and beverage expenses or whatever it may be. So if that is ineligible, so ineligible is out. What is eligible? Only available to you is 19 lakh 58,500. So ITC that can be availed is the least amongst the two, that is 19 lakh 58,500. You could claim it. Earlier we used to feel this process is so complicated, but now the tagline has changed. If you can see on the screen, now we say the process of ITC claim is currently quite simple. Things which we felt was difficult a few months back has now become simple, because the new section 38 has brought in a big havoc with respect to the calculation of ITC that can be availed. So going with this same example, that ITC as per books is the same amount, ITC as per to be filed by suppliers, again same amount. Eligible ITC is a crux. Okay, so total this is after implementation of section 38. So you have an inner column, outer column in this. So total ITC as per books 23 lakh 40,800. As you can see in the same example we are continuing. ITC filed by suppliers 21 lakh 40,800. Eligible ITC 19 lakh 58,500. ITC that can be availed before section 38 conditions the new conditions, the 6 clauses that we spoke about. So that comes now. So before that, it is 19,58,500. Now, step by step, we will start looking at different aspects. Now, supplier is a newly registered business under GST. So amount of 1,02,000 is disallowed. Remaining ITC 18,56,500. Now, why? Just to understand the basic, why is a supplier in a newly registered business under GST out? It used to happen, the legal part under which if we see that supplier is, people used to get registered, issue invoices, not file proper returns, close their business, start another business, again do those things. So such big was the scam. So basically every clause herein is because of some or the other scam which has happened over a period of time. To mitigate that, we are having these new clauses. So out of 19,58,500, 1,02,000 if it is for newly registered business, so that is out. So now we are left with 18,56,500. Now there are suppliers who have filed their GSTR 1 but not filed their 3B. If they have not filed their 3B, so you can presume that the tax is not paid. If the tax is not paid, therefore the credit is not available to the party. 45,000 rupees goes out of that. So out of 18,56,500, 45,000 is out. So you are left with 18,11,500. Taking the example further, there are suppliers' liability in the GSTR 1 is greater than that in 3B. As I said, over a period of time, if that is happening, so to the extent of 55,000, you have suppliers who have been having liability in GSTR 1 which is greater than 3B to the extent of 55,000. So further 55,000 is reduced and you are left with 17,56,500. You are having suppliers whose ITC in 3B is greater than their 2B. So till now you were looking at your aspect with respect to your supplier. Now it is you with respect to your supplier and your supplier with respect to his supplier. So in his 3B, he has claimed ITC which is more than eligible as per his 2B to the extent of 1,15,500. So again further that amount is reduced. So it is not just that you have to look at your own books. It is not just you have to look at your supplier's books. It is that supplier also you have to look at. Now, there are certain demand notices or defaulting payment of taxes to the for some of the dealers, or say one dealer, but his input tax credit is 75,000 rupees. So again, because your supplier has not attended to some of the demand notice, you would not be eligible to claim that ITC. So another 75,000 rupees gone. So you are left with 15,66,000 only. The supplier has not fulfilled the conditions of Rule 86B. That is, they have paid their entire liability of in the by way of credit ledger instead of cash ledger. Entire liability through credit ledger. So now the government says consistently this is happening. So we find that there is something fishy. So we will not allow you the credit of that party as well. So another 95,000 rupees goes away from the ITC. You are left with 14,71,000 rupees only. So out of the 19,58,500 of ITC, you have been disallowed ITC to the extent of 4,87,500, and you are left with just 14,71,000 as per the new revised section 38. So we were saying कि earlier अरे इतना compare करना है, 2B के साथ compare करना है, हम कैसे करेंगे? तो अगर आप वो सोचते थे कि वो खतरनाक है, तो ये इसके बारे में तो क्या बोल सकते हैं पता नहीं. Now for section 38, the section has been there, but the dates, the period has not been prescribed, it has not been notified. Therefore, we have to look at things ki once that gets notified, then the major complications would increase. Now, when we said, as I explained, everything is with respect to certain frauds, certain tax evasions that have happened over a period of time, and government has lost hundreds and thousands of crores rupees behind such fraudulent taxpayers. Therefore, this section has come into picture. The modification to this section has come in. However, certain major matters and controversy we would say over here would be when you say, okay, a newly taxpayer has been registered. So, अरे कोई नया धंधा चालू करेगा तो कर सकता है ना. तो क्या हम अगर नए डीलर के पास से अगर हम माल लेंगे ही नहीं तो पुराना होगा कैसे? So it is very very incorrect to say कि no, you have not purchased, you have purchased goods and you are having ITC from newly registered dealers, so we would not give you the input tax credit thereof. That is absolutely against the fundamental principle behind the implementation of the GST law, wherein it was always promised that there would be seamless flow of input tax credit. You know that jargon which came, आता कर वर no कर, no double taxation, there will be seamless flow of input tax credit. There would not be differential, as in you had different excise, you had VAT laws, and tax was charged upon tax, and such things used to happen. So that will not happen. You are not getting the credit of the CST, which was paid for interstate supplies. All those things will not happen under GST, and there will be seamless flow of input tax credit. However, these clauses have made it actually just a jargon in toto, saying that no, whatever we are saying is just this much. Now, what you get is something different. What you understood with when GST was implemented, we don't care about it, but this is what the things are as of now. Yes, it is there to end the ITC related fraud, the major fraud. So almost all the frauds under GST were happening majorly because of the input tax credit mechanism. Therefore, they made this input tax credit mechanism, they have tried to make it more foolproof, wherein things become very tightly compartmentalized and things can go further. The reconciliation process, which was earlier, we used to do it, say at the end of 6 months or at the end of the year and stuff. That reconciliation process will become absolutely on monthly basis, or at times you would have to say it becomes on daily basis, that the reconciliation process would start. Yes, it would be more dynamic and totally automated. Though I have mentioned preferably automated, but not preferably, it would be totally automated to ensure that there are the ITC claims which are there are 100% accurate and eligible. Only those credits would be available. Taxpayers will need to ensure that they only deal with compliant vendors. Not just their vendors have to be compliant, their vendors also have to be compliant. Therefore, you will have to be very cautious with respect to the number of vendors going ahead. Yes, or there is no option apart from getting automated solutions in the market to enable a taxpayer to check their supplier's compliance before they onboard them. A compliant supplier translates to higher ITC claims. See, because if 100% claims are not matched, how would it go further? Your cash flow, your working capital will take such a big hit, and that would increase the cost as well. One of the major points when GST was implemented was always that the costing would go low. Here, the costing will not go low. Working capital is impacted, amount is held up, and the government would be making money out of it, but not passing the benefit to the suppliers. See, now a major issue which comes up with most of these things is how would the mechanism work when we say that the input tax credit would not be available for new registered taxpayers. But when the taxpayer will become old, how will the mechanism work and how would you be able to claim the credit for that party? Because the party has paid the money, it has done all the compliances, but according to the law, it is a newly registered entity, therefore GST cannot be claimed. Now, if GST cannot be claimed therein, then how do you propose that for it to be available to you? The opposite, another clause, the opposite person has some liability, some notice which is pending, some demand which is pending. Okay, if the opposite party pays, the supplier pays that credit, pays the amount which is due from it. So then when would the credit be available to you and what would be the mechanism of claiming that credit? So that is not provided as of now. So now we have to think that how can taxpayers make their ITC claim process more efficient? So it is entirely up to you that how do you take ahead? What would be the mechanism for vendor checks for efficient input tax credit claim process? You have to configure your, each person has to work on as good as an ERP system wherein it checks, cross checks all the details and the vendor information, the vendor compliances before having the vendor on board. Earlier, when we used to say only the bigger companies, the large MNCs used to have an entire step for onboarding a vendor, entire compliance check that used to happen. Now there are no compliance. Now if a small dealer says कि अरे यार मैं कैसे इतना सब vendor checking करूंगा, then you are out of the market, out of trade, because the GST amounts are so large that it will at certain point of time, if the supplier from whom you have got the goods or services is non-compliant, that can go to that extent onto you that your business is shut down. So this under the dynamic matching under the 2B, before making the payment to the supplier are non-compliant, the buyer has the option to withhold payments. So simple, the buyer would say, okay, give me, I will see that if your amount comes under eligible input tax credit, then only I will make the payment to you. Till the time it is not shown as totally eligible ITC, I will not make payment. So that is a step which needs to be taken for each and every supply. Though it is not practical in many of the cases, but yes, it is there, and this is the only option as such which is majorly available to you going ahead, not otherwise. So when we looked at the revamped section 38, an elaborate discussion. Now we go further. Changes to the provisions regarding furnishing of GST returns. Now the non-resident taxable person has to file GSTR 5 on monthly basis by 13th of the following month. See, the government is too much bothered about non-resident taxable person, wherein it doesn't say here file different returns or anything. Now you file GSTR 5, which is a comprehensive return, by 13th of the following month itself. So no bigger window is provided to the non-resident taxable person, because it does not want things to happen in such a manner that the person is not traceable. Now in this state of Maharashtra, the person has come up from say Delhi for a purpose of exhibition, and now the authorities in Mumbai would not be, or in Mumbai or Pune would not be going to the extent कि हम दिल्ली जाएंगे, जाओ जाके दिल्ली से उसको पकड़ के लेके आओ. It becomes very difficult. So a stringent provision with respect to filing of monthly return in GSTR 5 by the 13th of the following month has been provided. Provide an option to the person filing a return under proviso to subsection 1 by either paying the self-assessed tax or the amount prescribed. So amount prescribed is the working that would come to you. Either you are given an option, okay, you pay this amount, or you yourself calculate, assess it yourself, and the self-assessed tax is to be paid. An extension, yes, it has been given, as we discussed time and again, that instead of the clause of return of the month of September, it has been made that 30th November of the following financial year for rectification of errors in form 3B as well. So when this thing came up, so rectification of errors in 3B, does that mean that you can rectify your 3B? No, there is no provision for revision of 3B. It is the rectification of mistake. The thing which we studied probably in our 11th or 12th standard in commerce in accounts, that how are rectifications to be made, rectification of error by way of a journal entry. That was a chapter that was taught to us. Subodh sir would be in a better position to recollect that easily. But that rectification of errors is always that you make the adjustment in the period whenever you feel it is understood by you. Say a mistake, an error has happened in the month of April 2022. You can, the difference, say there was a turnover of 10 lakh rupees in the month of April 22. However, while filing the 3B for April 22 in the month of May, instead of 10 lakhs, it went as 1 lakh. So the balance 9 lakhs, you have to show it whenever you realize your mistake, but that will be maximum up to the time of 30th November 2023. That is 30th November following the financial year. So financial year end would end in the month of March 23, and by 30th of November 23, you have time to rectify any errors that have come up in GSTR 3B. Again, the filing of GSTR 1 is added as a condition for filing GSTR 3B for the said tax period. This was never a prerequisite. 1 nahi file kiya, koi baat nahi, 3B file kar lo. But no, now the 3B would not go ahead till you have not filed the GSTR 1. So your entire process would be there. Without this, that cannot be filed. Without that, that cannot be filed. So it goes in a similar fashion. The concept of claim of ITC on a provisional basis has been done away with. It has absolutely been done away with, and because of the insertion of the modification in section 38, these things became redundant and they have been modified, removed. Not just, there are at times it so happens that a clause is redundant, but still it is there in the law. But here it has been modified, it has been removed wherever prescribed. Again, utilization of balance available in the electronic credit ledger. It has prescribed the conditions for availing the balance available in the electronic credit ledger. It allows the transfer of an amount from the electronic cash ledger of one person to another. It has prescribed the maximum portion of output tax liability which may be discharged through an electronic credit ledger. So what is this change basically? Say, for example, a company like Reliance Industries Limited, which has its existence in Maharashtra, in Gujarat, in Madhya Pradesh, in Delhi, in Karnataka, all across the country. Now, some amount has been paid in electronic cash ledger of the registration in the state of Maharashtra in one particular registration. Now, that amount which is paid, which is transferred in the electronic cash ledger of the state of Maharashtra, can be transferred to the GSTN of the state of Gujarat from Maharashtra, provided it is for the same legal entity. The entity, the company is the same, but the registrations are different because the states are different. The Maharashtra number starts with 27, the PAN followed by the code. The Gujarat registration starts with 24. So those are two separate, distinct persons for the purpose of GST. But the legal entity is the same. The company is the same. Therefore, the amount can be transferred from Maharashtra to the Gujarat number. That was never possible earlier. With the modification, it has been made possible now. Changes in the provision for claiming refund of unutilized ITC. Yes, within a period of 2 years from the last day of the quarter in which the supply was received, it has been provided that the amount of balance lying can be claimed back. There are other amendments as well in section 38 for the purpose of along with the GST practitioner, there were things like the director. So there are the provision for resignation of directors, the reference has been removed to make things pretty simple. Now, e-commerce operators were supposed to file GSTR 8, but there were no provision for levy of late fees for delay in filing GSTR 8 for the e-commerce operators. So that has been made. The provision for late fee has come up for that. 100 rupees CGST, 100 rupees SGST per day is the levy of late fees for delay in filing GSTR 8. No levy of interest on ITC claimed wrongly but not utilized under section 50 of the CGST Act. It is a retrospective amendment which has come in, that you have claimed the ITC but not utilized it. Then there will be no levy of interest on that. You claimed wrongly, okay. If you utilize it, your interest levy would start. But here you have not utilized it, therefore there would be no levy of interest, and that's a retrospective amendment. It provides for an extension of time limit up to 30th November for rectification of errors in TCS values in GSTR 8. Yes, as there are changes which are allowed and prescribed under other provisions. Similarly, even for your GSTR 8 rectification, it is possible up to 30th November from the end of the year. For other sections as well, the reference to section 38 has been removed. They, by notification, the portal, which was the the common electronic portal, that gst.gov.in, it was not uh, prescribed perfectly. So with the amendment, it is this portal which would be the central common portal, and for other purposes, that is e-waybill portal would be separate, the e-invoicing portal would be separate. The e-invoicing amendment which has come in for dealers for having turnover more than 10 crores are supposed to have the e-invoicing. That is an amendment which has come in, which requires extensive working thereon. Again, a retrospective amendment from 1st July 2017 onwards, wherein the interest rate, which was 24% per annum, has been reduced to 18% for delayed payment. It has been reduced from 24 to 18. Now the problem comes herein. What about the taxes which have been already paid along with interest at the rate of 24%? Now, when the amendment comes retrospectively and the extra 6%, would government give us the refund thereof? I don't think so. There is any provision for that. Interest once gone is gone. It cannot be retrieved back. Again, there has been an amendment wherein the exemption has been provided for unintended waste generated during the production of fish meal, except fish oil. So again, there is an amendment, and if the taxes are collected, then it has categorically been mentioned that a refund would not be provided thereon. Another notification wherein it is grant of a liquor license by way of license fee or application fee shall neither be treated as supply of goods nor supply of service, but tax is already collected, then a refund will not be provided. For both these amendments, I am not very much knowledgeable for both of these, because I don't deal in either of the dealers as a matter of principle. So with this, I would the floor could be made open for queries as whatever the organizers decide. But again, as somebody had requested for Hitesh ji had requested for again explaining the section 38. It is basically the section 38 states it restricts your eligible ITC till the ITC which was available to you earlier. Now, so many clauses have been added herein in the modified section 38, wherein it tries to reduce the amount of input tax credit that you can avail at a point of time. Different things, this will not be available, that would not be available, that would not be available. The conditions are prescribed, wherein it states that if it is a new dealer from whom you have purchased, ITC will not be available. If the opposite party has not paid tax, chalo, understandable. Okay, he has not paid tax. Though again, that is still not understandable, but at a point of time, okay, the person has not paid tax. Okay, if there is some notice, some demand which the government has raised against the party, still you say that will not be available. Okay, that is the law which has come in. If there is a mismatch in terms of the output tax liability in 3B vis-a-vis your GSTR 1, the suppliers 3B and GST are one, then input tax credit would not be available to you. The input tax credit of the opposite party, if he has not availed it properly, still it will not be available to you. So these are some of the stringent provisions which have come up, which needs to be addressed time and again. Here I would rest my point up to the organizers.
Thank you, Hiral bhai. Thank you so much
So
for
Hiral bhai,
enlightening us on the subject of recent changes and controversies under GST law. पहले मोदी जी ने एक बाबा को व्यापारी बनाया और जीएसटी लाकर सभी व्यापारी शायद बाबा बन जाएंगे, और ऐसे ही जीएसटी का चलता रहा तो शायद सीए भी उनके पीछे हिमालय चल देंगे, मालूम नहीं। अब समय है, गुरुजी मारो अंतरनाथ, हमने आपको आशीर्वाद ऐसे गुरुवर्य सेशन चेयरमैन सीए सुबोध शाह सर, उनको निमंत्रण है कि आप उनके उपसंहार मंतव्य कंक्लूडिंग रिमार्क्स से हमें उपकृत करें। इससे पहले we will have question answer. Thereafter, participants are requested to post their questions in chat box. And for now, उपसंहार मंतव्य, शुभ शाह सर।
yes, at the outset, let me thank Hiral bhai. It was a very, very comprehensive, very detailed presentation, and really I like the inputs. In fact, I got one additional facet on section 38, which even I had not realized. Hiral bhai, you have done a fabulous job. Just a couple of points I would like to add on this is, one, the government has made the due date of availing the ITC right up to 30th of November. But that 30th of November actually is a misnomer. कहने के लिए है 30th November, लेकिन when they say I can make amendments in GSTR 1 by 30th November, but then I have to realize that the last day for filing my GSTR 1 for October will be 11th of November. So practically that 30th November तक change नहीं होगा, वो change होगा by the return of October, which is filed by 11th of November. Same thing 3B की जो गलतियां है वो rectify करनी है, कहते हैं 30th November, but practically by 20th of November we'll have to file the 3B for October. Again, that is the unfortunate cutoff. There is no provision, as you rightly said, for rectification. We just need to amend or make changes in the returns which we will be filing in the future, and that is why that 30th November is not really there. Actually, in effect, we have got extra 1 month compared to what we had earlier, and not even one extra day. But when the finance minister makes the announcement, it sounds so nice. You got 2 extra months, and then businessmen का फायदा होगा, फलाना फलाना. But हाथ में क्या आ गया? बताया 2, आया 1 ही. What is a typical scene in the government? And another point, what was there? One point which was very importantly emphasized was on the matter of the interest. See, interest was very specific, that if you have claimed the ITC but you have not availed it but not utilized, there is no interest. And this has been a fabulous amendment, retrospective, that many people were facing this issue, that they had taken the ITC but they had not used it. And now when you try to reverse it, the interest was being demanded. वो welcome amendment है, that will at least facilitate the business. As far as section 38 goes, my personal view on this is, yes, it will create a lot of complications for the businessman. Yes, it will create a lot of reconciliation issues. But yes, इसका calculation at the current stage will be done directly by the portal. 2B will tell you what is eligible and what is not eligible. लेकिन उसके बाद का जो कार्यक्रम है कि tracking क्या बच गया and then reconciling it, it is going to be a Herculean task. That will be a mammoth task, and as you rightly said, some sort of a software tool will be mandatory to do the post follow-up tracking of whatever ITC we have not been able to get, in spite of it being visible maybe in the 2B. So this is going to be a big technical challenge, and it will be testing the patience of all accountants and chartered accountants across the country. Okay. But all in all, a fabulous presentation. Well done, Hiral. Over to you, Mahal.
Thank you, sir. If anyone is having any question on this subject and wants to ask, you may raise hands or you can just unmute yourself and ask your question. I think Hiral Bhai has done a fabulous job. Either people have understood everything or have understood nothing. So there are no
Everybody's
questions.
confused, probably.
I think they have understood it very thoroughly.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yes.
So nice of you, sir.
सुबोध सर is always nice. तो धन्यवाद सुबोध सर और हिरल भाई, आपने हमारे ज्ञान चक्षु जो है खोल दिए हैं. लेकिन सॉरी, आई टेक माय धन्यवाद बैक. मैं आपका धन्यवाद वापस लेता हूं, because we have a special person dedicated for the job who will give you a bigger thank you. So to give a formal vote of thanks, I welcome our JCF Mumbai committee member CA Hiral Shah for vote of thanks. Charmi.
Thank you, Mahavir sir. You must not take your thank you back, because Hiral sir is of, he must be thanked by each and every member who has attended this session, because being a GST topic, it's too difficult. And he has taken this topic so clearly, so in a layman's language, that every one of us have understood everything. I am not being a GST practitioner on the great side, but today, because of our speaker Hiral Bhai has made the topic so lucid that I also understand each and every aspect of GST. And overall, cherry on the cake was Subodh sir, who chaired the session. Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable time. Also, thank you, Hiral Bhai, for giving your valuable time, inputs, and a presentation to give takes a lot more than 1 month, because you have to learn it first and then present it to our members. So thank you, Hiral Bhai, to give your valuable time and inputs to our session. And also thank you, Mahavir sir, for all your inputs and time. Thank you, JCF, for allowing Hiral Bhai and Subodh sir to present their views to our members at large. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Charmisha, for expressing our wholehearted gratitude towards our speakers in very apt words. And you said you are not practicing in GST. And as I said a couple of lines back, that people are so tired of GST, and so many, जैसे मैंने बोला कि व्यापारी बाबा बन रहे, सीए भी उनके पीछे चलते हैं. आप अच्छा है जहाँ पे आप प्रैक्टिस कर रहे हो उसको प्लीज कंटिन्यू कीजिए, और अगर कुछ लगा कि आपको GST फील्ड में आना ही है तो अपने पास, we know that we have the Subodh sir and our speaker Hiral Bhai to guide us. With this, with the permission of President of JCF and Chairman of this session, I declare this session as adjourned till next meeting. Do join in there. Till then, take care, keep good health, and keep smiling. Jai Janata.
Jai Janata.
Jai Janata.
Meet everybody on Monday.
Yes,
Sir,
now
next-
the session is open for formal, informal chat. If anybody wants to express something on today's subject, you are all most welcome.
Sir, our next session is on Monday, 5 to 7, with respect to the MBAT amnesty scheme.
Yes. Thank you.
Hope to see everybody over there.
Yes. Amrit bhai, any announcements? Amrit bhai is there?
Santoshji, please unmute yourself. Doshi sahib.
Yeah, announcement our speaker himself made. So
Yeah.
the next session is on the MBAT amnesty scheme, which is going to be very interesting session in view of the scheme which has already become operative now. And many dealers who have been facing the heat of the department during COVID period would be able to take advantage of the generous amnesty scheme declared ever, we can say, where for small taxpayers, where liability is less than 10 lakhs, only 10%. Am I right, Hiral bhai? Only 10% they have to
Yes,
pay.
only 10%.
All liability is getting waived. So that's a wonderful initiative by this Maharashtra government.
Absolutely.
We have to be guiding all the dealers and go behind them to take avail of this wonderful amnesty scheme. So stay tuned.
Our next session chairman is already sitting with the Commissioner of State Tax and understanding the entire thing personally, one-on-one basis.
Yeah.
Currently.
Okay. thank you, friends. It has been wonderful session altogether. And please keep passing on the words to all your other friends, colleagues, so that they also can get advantage of this live session on various updates in all the tax laws. Thank you, friends. Yeah.
Okay. We'll close the session. Thank you.
Hiral bhai, you are requested
Jai
to
Hind to
kindly
all.
share the recording of this meeting.
Yes, sir.
because
I'll do that.
We have not gone on YouTube today.
We'll
And
upload
if
it on YouTube.
possible, you may like to share the PPT.
Yes, sir. That also
So
we will
there
do.
are some queries in the chat box regarding
Yes, sir. We'll do both of them, sir. That will be done.
Okay. Jai Hind सभी को.
जय जिनेंद्र दीप्ति जी कैसे हैं?
Jai Hind. All
Devi
good.
ji, darshan
Sir
dijiye,
Hiral
Devi
ji.
ji, Dipti ji.
I'm not ready at all. ऐसे ही है, अभी I won't be able to on the video.
No problem, no problem.
Okay, but it's so nice to see you all. Santosh sir, Mahavir ji,
सभी को जय
Amit sir.
हिंद।
हाँ. All going good.
Fantastic.
And session was very good. Hiral ji took very nicely.
देखिए ना, जो प्रैक्टिस नहीं करते हैं उनको भी माने तो इच्छा हो गई, उनको भी समझ आ गई, तो ऑब्वियसली इट इज वैल्यू
It's
एडिशन।
a good. Actually,
Better.
even I have joined in the mid of the session, but जहाँ से भी join किया, I am able to understand the things. So that's why I totally agree with the Charmi's statement. He explained in a very lucid manner.
नहीं, उतना ही नहीं है, जो भी मिस हुआ है ना उसके लिए ऑलरेडी रिकॉर्डेड पोर्शन है अपने पास।
Right. जी जी.
Yes, we can refer afterwards also.
Surely.
Okay.
अपलोड कर
चलिए.
लेंगे YouTube चैनल पे। जी सर।
Okay. चलिए जय जिनेंद्र.
चलो मिलते हैं। Okay.
Okay. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Hiral,
Bye-bye.